Hi, everyone. Today, I want to address one of my favorite social media platforms. Most people love it or hate it, and that would be Twitter. And what is it that I like about Twitter? It's very concise. And I like that it challenges me as a writer to try to form a complete message, sometimes even tell a story in a very concise number of characters. So it's possible you have a Twitter account and perhaps you never use it. Some of you may be avid Twitter users. I tend to use my Twitter account as a news feed. I use it to receive news and also to push out news, to link to things like websites, press releases. The cool thing about Twitter is that it sort of acts like a police scanner, and it's been called the police scanner of our century. And so, a lot of breaking news, celebrity deaths, for example, when Michael Jackson died, that was first reported on Twitter. So, it's quite immediate. We also know there are people who use and abuse Twitter. It's also used to spread misinformation. And so, as with other social media platforms, we have to use it carefully, really kind of be validating information and realizing that if there's misinformation, it's going to travel quickly. So I really, my takeaway for Twitter, I'm not going to have you do a lot with it, but I do want you to compose a message and send a direct message to me. If you are someone who's new to Twitter, you may not even have an account, and I would like you to establish one, and then it will be up to you if you want to continue to use that or not. But I do have some key messages for you to take away from our Twitter section. And the first is 280. So it used to be that Twitter allowed 140 characters, and a couple years ago, they increased that to 280 characters. And when I say characters, that doesn't mean words, it doesn't mean just letters. It is spaces, numbers, all of that. And so one of the challenges, then, of course, if you use it as I do to link to websites, is that you really don't want to use the 280 characters all for a URL. And we know some URLs, your web address can become very long. Um, so, what I would encourage you to do if you're running into long URLs, because we want to be linking, remember from our blogging discussion, it helps us build followers, is to consider something like Bitly, Bitley. It's a free online service where you can plug in your URL and it will condense it and give you a shorter URL. And then that's the one you want to use and put into your Twitter account. A couple other takeaways for Twitter is this, which through Twitter we know as a hashtag. So it looks like the numeral in a press release. These are used at the bottom of press releases to indicate it's the end. But for Twitter, a hashtag is something that you can use, and anyone who's following that hashtag can will get that information. And so as you look at Twitter, you'll see there are trending topics, and they have associated hashtags. And people follow those. For example, if you are a fan of the Green Bay Packers, hashtag Green Bay Packers, you would be someone who's getting the Green Bay Packers news, then following that in your Twitter feed. So we do want to try to use hashtags, and I would like you to try to do that with your message to me on a topic that is part of your Twitter message. The other thing I want you to know about is this. It looks like the at symbol, and this is used to message someone. And so using this with our Twitter handle, so whatever my personal address is on Twitter, in my case it's N Kasalki, my last name, just as you would use that for email, then it will be sent to me. And so if you are mentioning people, you want them to be aware of it, perhaps you want them to follow or post a comment, then you want to make sure you're using that at to send them a message. Beyond that, Twitter is just really widely used by everyone from politicians to celebrities, athletes, and again, we use it a lot to share news. But I think it really challenges us as writers to think concisely, and to be providing the absolute most important information. And so please challenge yourself to try to do this and write short. In my opinion, it's often easier to write longer. And as a journalist, I've always enjoyed writing feature length, magazine length stories. I'm able to stretch out, use more material. But I also enjoy challenging myself to say a lot in a little space. One exercise I have students in some of my other classes do is called the 6-word novel. And in a way, that gets to this Twitter concept of being concise. And I challenge students to write a story in 6 words or less. That challenge actually came from Ernest Hemingway, famous author, one of my very favorites, who was in a bar. He lived in Key West, and he was challenged by some others in the bar in a bet if he could write a novel in 6 words or less. And what he came up with was For Sale, Baby Shoes Never Worn. And that's really interesting because it could be interpreted in many different ways, but generally probably not a happy story. But he was successful in doing that, and now there's an international contest and a Twitter hashtag devoted to 6-word novels. So, again, that's the short of Twitter. And please send me a message. Again, make it personal, include a hashtag, and make sure to use my Twitter handle.